Your little business isn't even real, Isla." My brother said it loud enough for everyone at the table to hear, and they laughed like it was harmless. I smiled because I've learned to, especially when my own family turns me into a joke. Then the front door opened. A man I had never seen before stepped inside tailored suit, calm eyes, holding a folder with my name printed across the top. "Who's Isla Cruz?" he asked. The room went quiet. I raised my hand slowly, my stomach tightening as he walked straight toward me and placed the folder on the table. Inside was my proposal, except parts of it weren't mine. "I've been trying to reach you for weeks," he said, "but you already turned me down." I stared at him. No, I didn't. So who did? If you're watching this from somewhere far away, tell me your country and what time it is for you right now. I didn't realize that night would unravel everything I thought I knew about my family. So if you want to hear the rest, you might want to stay. The next morning, I unlocked my office earlier than usual. It wasn't much, just a small leased space above a print shop on the edge of Midtown Houston, but it was mine. Every sample, every prototype, every client I'd earned had come from long nights and quiet persistence. No shortcuts, no family help. Kayla was already there, sitting cross-legged on her chair, with her laptop open and a cup of iced coffee sweating onto a stack of invoices. "You're here early," she said, glancing up. "Everything okay?" "No," I said, dropping my bag on the desk. "I need you to help me check something." I didn't explain everything right away. I just logged into my email and started searching. "Look for anything from Victor Hale," I said. "Or Hale Industries. Last 2 months. Kayla's eyebrows lifted slightly. "That Victor Hale, I think so?" She didn't ask more. That's one of the reasons I trust her. Within a minute, she found it. "There are actually a lot," she said slowly, turning her screen toward me. My stomach tightened. There were 6 emails from Hale Industries. The first one was dated almost 4 weeks ago, an introduction formal but interested. The second followed up with specific questions about my design approach. The third requested a meeting. I hadn't seen any of them. "Open the last one," I said. Kayla clicked. It was short. "We understand your position and respect your decision. We will not pursue this partnership further." Below that was a reply. "From me," except it wasn't. "Thank you for your interest, but I don't believe this collaboration aligns with my current direction. I wish you the best moving forward." It was clean, polite, dismissive, and completely fake. Kayla looked at me. "Did you send this?" "No." I leaned closer, reading every word again. The tone was almost right, but not quite. Too formal, too detached. Anyone who actually knew me would hear the difference immediately. But Victor Hale wouldn't. "Check the sent folder," I said. She did. The email was there, time-stamped, logged, filed neatly among my real messages like it belonged. My chest felt tight, but my voice stayed steady. "Pull up the account activity." Kayla hesitated. "You think someone hacked you?" "I don't know what I think yet." She clicked through settings, scrolling until she found the login history. There were multiple entries, locations, timestamps, device types. Most of them were mine. Same IP, same devices I recognized. But then there were a few that didn't match. Kayla pointed. They're from a different device." "Where?" She clicked into the details. "Same city, same provider, same network range." I already knew before she said it. "This is residential," Kayla murmured. "It's not from here." "Scroll up," I said quietly. She did. More entries. Same pattern, intermittent access over the past month. Each one lined up almost perfectly with the timestamps of the emails I never saw. I pulled out my phone and opened the Wi-Fi settings I still had saved from when I used to visit my mom's house regularly. The network name appeared on the screen, cruisehome_5G. Kayla looked between my phone and the login history. Is that? Yes. For a moment, neither of us spoke. It wasn't just that someone had accessed my account, it was where they did it from. My family's house. I exhaled slowly and leaned back in my chair. Okay, I said. Let's not jump to conclusions. Kayla nodded, but her expression didn't soften. Who has your password? I changed it last year, I said, after a client issue. But before that, I didn't answer right away, because there was only one name that made sense. Daniel. My brother had helped me set up my accounts years ago when I first started the business, back when I still believed that meant he supported me. He'd insisted on keeping things organized, said I wasn't technical enough to manage security on my own. At the time, I'd been grateful. Now it felt different. Could it be your mom? Kayla asked carefully. I shook my head. She doesn't even check her own email. And your sister-in-law Megan wouldn't... I stopped myself. Would she? I replayed last night in my head. The way Daniel had laughed. The way my mom had stayed quiet. The way Megan barely said a word, just watched everything unfold like she was somewhere else entirely. And then Victor Hale's voice cut through it all. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. Weeks. This wasn't one mistake. It was a pattern. Search for other clients, I said. Kayla turned back to her laptop. What should I look for? Anything that looks off, missed opportunities, replies that don't sound like me. She worked quickly, opening threads, scanning conversations. A few minutes later, she went still. Isla, you need to see this. I stood and walked over. On the screen was a thread from a mid-size packaging company I'd pitched to 2 months ago. They'd shown interest, asked for a revised quote, and then another reply from me. Unfortunately, I'm no longer available to take on new clients at this scale. I felt something shift inside me. Cold. Clear. How many? I asked. Kayla swallowed. At least 4. Maybe more. 4 deals. 4 chances quietly erased. Not because I failed, because someone made sure I never had the chance. I looked back at the login logs. Same IP, same pattern, same house. This wasn't sabotage from the outside. This was deliberate. Personal. I straightened up and closed my eyes for a second, forcing myself to think past the anger. Okay, I said. Here's what we're going to do. Kayla turned to me, waiting. We don't confront anyone yet. Her eyebrows lifted. We don't... No. My voice was steady now. Not without proof they can't talk their way out of. Because I already knew how this would go. Denial, deflection, blame. You're overreacting. You're misunderstanding. We were just trying to help. I opened my eyes and met Kayla's gaze. I want copies of everything I said. Every log, every email, every timestamp. She nodded immediately. And don't touch the originals I added. We keep everything exactly as it is. Got it. I picked up my phone again, staring at the familiar network name on the screen. Cruisehome_5G. For the first time, it didn't feel like a place I belonged. It felt like a source, a starting point. And if I followed it carefully enough, it would lead me straight to the truth, because someone had been speaking in my voice, turning down opportunities, rewriting my work, deciding what I was allowed to become. And there was only one person who had ever looked at me like that, like I needed to be managed, corrected, kept small. I slipped my phone back into my pocket. "Let's get to work," I said. But as I sat back down, one thought stayed with me louder than the rest. Daniel didn't just know my password, he knew exactly what he was doing. I didn't go back to my mom's house right away. I drove around for almost 40 minutes, not really seeing the roads in front of me. I needed the time not to calm down, but to decide who I was going to be when I walked through that door. Because there were only two options. The version of me they were used to, the one who tried to explain who gave them room to deny everything, who let things go to keep the peace. Or the version of me that paid attention, the one who stopped asking for permission to be taken seriously. I parked across the street from the house I grew up in and sat there for a moment watching the lights through the front window. It looked exactly the same as it always had. That used to mean comfort. Now it just meant nothing had changed. I stepped out of the car and walked up the driveway, my chest steady, my thoughts clear. When I opened the door, my mom was in the kitchen. Rosa didn't look surprised to see me. "You're back," she said, like I had just stepped out for a minute instead of walking into something completely different. "I need to talk," I said. She wiped her hands on a towel, her expression already tightening. "If this is about last night, it is." She sighed, like I was the one making things difficult. "Isla, you embarrassed yourself. That man came in, and that man I cut in is Victor Hale. That got her attention." She paused just for a second. "Not confusion recognition. I know who he is," she said, quieter now. "Of course she did." "Then you know what kind of opportunity that was," I said. "And you know I didn't turn it down." Her jaw shifted slightly. "Isla, I checked my email this morning." I continued, keeping my voice level. "Someone's been responding to clients. From my account." She didn't react the way someone innocent would. No surprise, no questions, just a slow inhale. "You're jumping to conclusions," she said. "I have login records," I said. "From this house." That was when Daniel walked in. He must have heard my voice from the hallway. He leaned against the door frame like he had all the time in the world, arms crossed, expression already set. "Here we go," he muttered. I turned to him. "You accessed my email," I said. It wasn't a question. He didn't answer right away, just let out a small laugh under his breath like I'd said something mildly amusing. "You really think I have time to mess with your little inbox?" he said. "Yes," I said. Something flickered across his face just for a second. Then it was gone. "You're being paranoid," he said. "Again." I held his gaze. "Then explain how emails were sent from my account from this house." My mom stepped in before he could answer. "This is exactly what I was talking about," she said, turning to me. "You take one thing and blow it out of proportion." "Mom," I said, sharper now. "Don't," she stopped. Not because I raised my voice, because I didn't. I'm not guessing I said. "I have timestamps, IP logs, specific messages that were sent while I wasn't even at home." Daniel shifted his weight, but he still didn't say anything. So I kept going. "One of those emails turned down a contract with Hale Industries," I said. "Do you understand what that means?" He shrugged. "Maybe it wasn't a good fit." That did it. I took a step closer. "You read it," I said. "It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be." His eyes snapped to mine. "What?" "You read the email," I repeated. "You knew what was in it." He opened his mouth, then stopped. Just for a second. But it was enough. "You said maybe it wasn't a good fit," I continued. "That's exactly what the email said. the one I never saw. Silence settled into the room. My mom looked between us, her expression tightening again, but this time it wasn't irritation. It was calculation. "Isla," she said carefully, "even if someone did look at your account, it doesn't mean—" "Look," I said. "They didn't just look. They answered. They turned down work. They changed documents." Daniel pushed off the wall. "You're acting like this is some kind of crime," he said. "It is." He laughed again, but it sounded thinner now. "Please, you're overreacting." "Am I asked. I watched him closely. Not what he said. How he said it. The way his shoulders were still squared, but his hands had started to move small, restless movements he couldn't quite control, the way he wouldn't look directly at me for more than a second at a time. "You knew my password," I said. "You helped me set it up." "That was years ago," he shot back. "And you think I forgot that?" He didn't answer. My mom stepped forward again. "Enough," she said. "This is turning into something it doesn't need to be." I turned to her. "You knew," I said. It wasn't a guess anymore. Her lips pressed together. "I knew you were getting in over your head," she said finally. The words landed harder than anything Daniel had said. "What does that even mean?" I asked. "It means," she said, her voice steadier now, "you don't always see the bigger picture. You get excited about things that aren't realistic." "Hale Industries isn't realistic," I asked. "For you," she said, "no." There it was. Not doubt. Certainty. "I was trying to protect you," she added. "Both of us were." I looked at Daniel. He didn't deny it this time. "We stopped a few emails," he said. "That's all. A few." I felt something inside me go very still. "You stopped 4 contracts," I said. "Maybe more." He shrugged again, but there was tension in it now. They weren't the right clients. "For who?" I asked. "For you," he said quickly. "No," I said. "For you." That hit. He straightened, his expression hardening. "You think everything is about you? I think you read my emails," I said. "I think you decided what I was allowed to do, and I think you didn't expect me to notice." My mom's voice cut in sharper now. "You're being ungrateful," she said. "We helped you." I turned to her slowly. By pretending to be me, she didn't answer. By turning down work I earned still nothing. By making me look incompetent to people I've never even met. Her silence said more than any explanation could. I nodded once. Not because I understood, but because I didn't need anything else. "This isn't a misunderstanding," I said quietly. "This is intentional." Daniel scoffed. "So, what, you're going to sue your own family now?" I met his eyes. "I don't know yet," I said, and that was the truth. Because I wasn't there to decide what to do next. Not yet. I was there to confirm something. And I had. They weren't confused. They weren't trying to help. They believed I needed to be controlled, managed, kept in a place that made sense to them. I took a step back toward the door. My mom's voice followed me. "Isla, don't make this bigger than it is." I paused, my hand on the handle. Then I turned back one last time. "You already did," I said. I walked out before they could respond. But as I reached my car, one thought stayed with me clearer than anything else. They admitted just enough to justify themselves, but not enough to prove anything. And that meant one thing. If I wanted the truth to matter, I was going to have to prove it myself. I didn't go home after that. I drove straight to Ethan Brooks's office. It was a small firm tucked between a tax consultant and a real estate office, nothing flashy, which was exactly why I chose him. Ethan didn't sell confidence. He built cases. He glanced up when I walked in, immediately reading my face. "You got something," he said. "Not enough," I replied, setting my bag down. "But it's not a theory anymore." We moved into his office and I laid everything out: login records, email threads, timestamps, what my mom and Daniel admitted, and more importantly, what they didn't. Ethan didn't interrupt. He just listened, occasionally jotting down notes. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "Okay," he said. "So here's where you are." I waited. "You have strong indicators of unauthorized access," he continued. "But right now, it's circumstantial. They admitted it," I said. "They admitted to intervening," he corrected. "That's not the same as admitting to impersonation fraud or business interference in a legal sense." I exhaled slowly. I already knew that, but hearing it out loud made it heavier. "So what do I need?" I asked. "Direct evidence," he said. "Something that shows Daniel accessed your account, acted as you, and caused measurable harm. I have the logs." "They help," he said. "But logs alone can be challenged. Shared networks, mistaken attribution, technical ambiguity. We need something harder to dispute." I nodded once. "What about the proposal?" I asked. "It was altered." Ethan leaned forward. "That's interesting. Show me." I pulled out the printed version Victor had brought along with my original file on my laptop. We placed them side by side. At first glance, they looked identical. Same layout, same structure, same language. But when you looked closer, "They changed the kerning," Ethan said. I blinked. "What?" The spacing between letters, he explained. "It's subtle, but it affects readability. Makes it feel off." He pointed to the logo. "And this, your brand mark, is slightly compressed. Not enough for most people to notice consciously, but enough to register as unpolished." I felt a chill run through me. "They didn't just send a bad email," I said slowly. "They made me look amateur." "Exactly," he said, "which suggests intent." To what I asked, even though I already knew the answer forming in the back of my mind. "To undermine your credibility," he said, "or redirect opportunity." Redirect. That word stayed with me. "Can we prove who edited it?" I asked. Ethan shook his head slightly. "Not from this alone." "But if we can tie it to a device, or a file history, or a screen recording," I said before I could stop myself. He looked up. "Do you have one?" "No," I said quickly. "Not yet." But the idea settled in. "Listen." Ethan continued, pulling my focus back. "Right now, your priority isn't confrontation. It's preservation." "Preservation of evidence," he said. "You don't change passwords. You don't alert them that you're building a case. You let them think everything is normal." That part didn't sit well. "You want me to pretend nothing's wrong?" I asked. "I want you to give them space to make a mistake," he said calmly. I looked down at the documents on the table. "They already made one," I said. "Yes," he replied. "But we need them to make one we can prove." Silence settled between us. I understood what he was saying, and I hated that he was right. "What about Victor Hale?" I asked after a moment. "He's part of this." Ethan nodded. "He's a witness at the very least. Possibly more depending on how this plays out." "He thinks I turned him down," I said. "Then you need to correct that," Ethan said. Carefully. "How?" "Not emotionally," he said. "Professionally. With facts." I leaned back in my chair thinking. I need to meet him, I said. Yes, Ethan agreed, but not empty-handed. I looked at the proposal again. The altered spacing, the distorted logo. Small changes, precise changes. Not random. Whoever did this understands presentation, I said. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Your brother Daniel works in operations, I said. He's not detail-oriented like this. Then who is Ethan asked? I didn't answer right away, because another face had come to mind. Megan. She worked in marketing, branding, visual consistency. She would notice kerning. She would know exactly how to make something look subtly wrong. And last night she barely spoke. She just watched. What are you thinking? Ethan asked. I think Daniel didn't do this alone, I said. Ethan considered that. Then you may have leverage, he said. How? If someone involved feels exposed, he said they might cooperate. Cooperate. Or protect themselves. I stood up, gathering the documents. I need copies of everything I said. Ethan nodded. We'll document it properly. Chain of custody timestamp certified copies. If this goes to court, we do it right. I paused at the door. One more thing, he added. I turned back. Whatever you do next, he said, don't let them control the narrative again. I held his gaze for a second. They already think they are, I said. Then I walked out. The afternoon heat hit me as soon as I stepped onto the sidewalk, but I barely felt it. My mind was already moving. Daniel had access. That much was clear. But the precision, the way my work had been altered just enough to damage it without making it obvious, that wasn't his style. That was deliberate. Calculated. And suddenly Megan's silence didn't feel neutral anymore. It felt like distance, like she was already standing somewhere else. I got into my car and pulled out my phone. There was a message waiting. Unknown number. I opened it. Check the USB before you trust anyone. No name, no explanation, just that. I stared at the screen, my grip tightening around the phone, because I hadn't told anyone about the USB. Not Kayla, not Ethan, no one. Which meant whoever sent that message was already watching how this was unfolding. I didn't reply to the message, not because I wasn't tempted, but because I didn't know who I'd be replying to. Instead, I stared at it for a few seconds longer, then locked my phone and set it face down on the passenger seat. Check the USB before you trust anyone. The wording bothered me. Not use it, not look at it. Check it, like there was something wrong with it, or something I was supposed to notice. I exhaled slowly and started the car. If someone was watching how this played out, then reacting too quickly was exactly what they'd expect. So I didn't. I drove to Daniel's house that evening like nothing had changed, like I wasn't already 2 steps ahead. Megan opened the door when I knocked. She looked surprised, but not in the way someone looks when they don't expect you. More like she hadn't expected me to come alone. Isla, she said quietly. Hi. Hey, I replied, offering a small, careful smile. Is Daniel home? He's in the back, she said. Working. Of course he was. Can I come in? I asked. She hesitated for just a fraction of a second, then stepped aside. Yeah, sure. The house smelled like something recently cooked garlic butter, something warm and domestic. It felt normal. Too normal. Daniel was at the dining table with his laptop open, papers spread around him like he was in the middle of something important. He looked up when I walked in. Well, he said, leaning back in his chair. Didn't think you'd come back this soon. I wanted to talk, I said. Again, he smirked. You didn't get it out of your system earlier. I ignored that. I overreacted, I said instead. That got his attention. Not fully, but enough. What he said. I shouldn't have come at you like that, I continued. I didn't have all the facts. Silence. He studied me for a second like he was trying to decide whether this was real or just another version of me he could dismiss. Megan stayed near the kitchen pretending to check something on her phone, but I could feel her listening. I added lightly, it's not like you'd actually risk messing with my business. That wouldn't make any sense. Daniel's shoulders relaxed slightly. There it was. Relief. Subtle, but there. Exactly, he said. Finally. I let out a small breath. I've been under a lot of pressure. That whole thing with Hale Industries, you would have messed that up anyway, he cut in. I tilted my head slightly like I was considering that, maybe I said, but I'd still like to see what I missed. He shrugged. Nothing important. Can I nodded toward his laptop. That was the first moment he hesitated. Not long, but long enough. Why, he asked. I want to learn. I said simply, if I'm doing something wrong, I'd rather fix it. It sounded reasonable, humble. Exactly the kind of version of me he preferred. He looked at Megan briefly, just a glance, but I caught it. Then he turned the laptop slightly. Fine, he said. But there's not much to see. I stepped closer, keeping my movements slow, casual. The screen showed an email draft. Not open, just minimized in the corner. But I saw enough. The subject line, the phrasing. It was the same structure as the emails sent from my account. I didn't realize you handled client communication like this, I said. I don't, he replied quickly. This is for something else. Right, I said. I didn't push. Not yet. Instead, I walked around the table pretending to glance at the papers scattered nearby. Invoices, notes, a printed mock-up. And then, there it was. A document I recognized instantly. My layout, my formatting, but with a different company name at the top. I picked it up. What's this? I asked. Daniel didn't answer right away. Just something I'm working on, he said finally. It looks familiar, I said. It's a standard structure, he replied. Nothing special. Nothing special. I nodded slowly, setting it back down exactly where I found it. I should probably redo some of my materials, I said almost to myself. Mine might be too basic. He smiled slightly. That would help. Of course it would. I stepped back, giving him space again. Thanks, I said, for letting me look. No problem, he replied. Glad you're being reasonable again. Reasonable. That word sat between us like a test I had just passed. I turned toward the door. Hey, Megan said suddenly. I paused. She was standing a little closer now, her expression tighter than before. You okay? She asked. It was a simple question, but it didn't sound simple. I'm fine, I said. Her eyes held mine for a second longer than necessary, like she was trying to say something without saying it. Then she nodded. Okay. I left after that. Didn't rush, didn't look back. But the moment I got into my car, I let out the breath I'd been holding. My hands were steady. My mind was clearer than it had been all day, because now I knew. Daniel wasn't just interfering. He was rebuilding my work, rebranding it, positioning himself to step into opportunities I never even got to see. And Megan wasn't neutral. She knew. Maybe she helped. Maybe she just stayed quiet, but she wasn't outside of it. I reached for my phone and unlocked it. The message was still there. Check the USB before you trust anyone. This time, I didn't ignore it. I opened my contacts and called Kayla. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey, I need you to do something," I said, cutting her off gently. "Don't open the USB file again." There was a pause. "Why, I'm not sure yet," I said. "But we need to verify it first. Make sure it hasn't been altered." "You think it's fake?" she asked. "I think," I said slowly, "someone wants me to believe something very specific." Silence on the other end. "Okay," Kayla said. "What do you want me to do?" "Isolate it," I said. "Run it on a separate system. No network connection, and check the metadata before you open anything." "You got it." I ended the call and leaned back in my seat. Daniel thought I was stepping back, letting things go, being reasonable. But he didn't realize something. I wasn't walking away. I was stepping around. Because if the USB was real, it could prove everything. And if it wasn't, then someone else was playing a much bigger game than I thought. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because I was anxious, but because my brain wouldn't stop working. Every piece of this felt intentional. Too clean. Too controlled. By the time I got to the office the next morning, Kayla was already there again. This time, no coffee. Just her laptop, a second machine I'd never seen before, and a quiet focus that told me she understood how serious this was. "I followed your instructions," she said as soon as I walked in. "Air-gapped system. No network access." "Good," I replied, setting my bag down. "What did you find?" She turned the second laptop toward me. "I didn't open the video file right away," she said. "I checked the metadata first." I pulled up a chair. "The creation date doesn't match," she continued. "How far off 3 days? That didn't make sense." "The files were supposed to show Daniel accessing my account over the past few weeks," I said. "Why would they all be created 3 days ago?" "Exactly," Kayla said. She clicked into the details. "Also, look at this," she added, pointing to a field I wouldn't have noticed on my own. "Editing software signature. It's not native screen recording. It was processed." "Edited?" I asked. "Possibly assembled," she said carefully. "Clips could be real, but the file itself was exported recently." I leaned back, letting that settle. "So the USB isn't clean evidence," I said. "No," she replied. "It's curated." That word hit differently. Curated meant someone wanted me to see a specific version of events. "Open it," I said. Kayla hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Yes. But keep everything recorded." She nodded and clicked. The video started. It showed a desktop screen, my email interface, my inbox, my files. Then a cursor moved, opened messages, typed responses, adjusted my proposal, and there was Daniel. Not directly no face, but his username appeared briefly when switching profiles. His device ID flashed in a system window. It was convincing. Too convincing. "Pause," I said. Kayla froze the frame. "Zoom into the timestamp." She did. The numbers were clean. Perfectly aligned. Almost too perfect. "Compare it with the system clock overlay," I said. She opened another panel, pulling data from the metadata logs. There it was. A discrepancy. Not large, just a few seconds off, but consistent. Across multiple clips. "That's not how real recordings behave," Kayla said quietly. "System time and overlay should match exactly." "Unless it was stitched together," I said. She nodded. We sat there in silence for a moment, both looking at the screen. "So someone took real activity," Kayla said slowly, and built a cleaner narrative out of it. "Yes, but why?" she asked. "If Daniel really did this, why not just give you the raw files I didn't answer right away? Because the answer was already forming. This isn't just about proving Daniel did it," I said finally. Kayla looked at me. "It's about controlling how I respond," I continued. "If I believe this is solid evidence, I go straight to confrontation, maybe even legal action." "And that's bad?" she asked. "It could be," I said, "if the evidence gets challenged, if it falls apart under scrutiny." Kayla frowned. "Then whoever gave you this wants you to fail or move too fast," I said. She leaned back slightly. "So we have two possibilities." I nodded. "Say it." "Either Megan is helping you," she said, "but doesn't know how to handle evidence properly. Or I finished, she's part of something bigger." The room felt quieter after that. "Do you trust her?" Kayla asked. I thought about last night. The way Megan looked at me. The way she handed me the USB without a word. The tension in her voice when she asked if I was okay. "I think she's scared," I said. "Of Daniel?" Maybe I said. "Or of what happens if everything comes out." Kayla glanced back at the screen. "So what do we do with this?" I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the street below. People moving, cars passing, everything normal. But nothing about this was normal. "We keep it," I said. "But we don't use it yet." Kayla nodded. "And we verify everything independently," I added. "Logs, timestamps, device access, things that can't be easily manipulated." "Got it." I turned back toward her. "And Kayla." "Yeah. Don't tell anyone about this. Not even casually." She gave a small, humorless smile. "Wasn't planning on it." I nodded. Then my phone buzzed. Another message. Same unknown number. I picked it up slowly. "You noticed?" 2 words. Nothing else. I stared at the screen. Kayla watched me. "Same number." "Yes." "What does it say I showed her?" She exhaled quietly. "They know you checked it." "Yeah," I said. A third message came in before I could lock the phone. "Meet me." "You deserve the truth." No location, no name. Just that. Kayla looked at me. "You're not actually considering that, right?" I didn't answer immediately, because part of me already was. Not because I trusted them, but because whoever was behind this knew about the USB, knew I'd question it, and knew I wouldn't ignore it, which meant they understood me better than they should. I locked the phone and slipped it into my pocket. "This isn't over," I said. Kayla nodded. "Clearly." I grabbed my bag, my mind already moving through possibilities, because now there were 2 battles, one against Daniel, and one against someone who was watching from the shadows, feeding me just enough truth to keep me moving, but never enough to see the full picture. And until I figured out which side they were on, I couldn't trust any of it. Not even the evidence that was supposed to prove everything. I didn't go to the meeting right away. I let the message sit for almost 6 hours. If someone was trying to pull me into a conversation, they could wait. I needed to decide how much control I was willing to give up just by showing up. By late afternoon, I had a plan. Public place. Early evening. Somewhere with cameras, foot traffic, and no reason for anyone to get too comfortable. I texted back one line. Location. The reply came within seconds. Lobby Cafe, Hale Tower, 6 p.m. I stared at the screen. That wasn't subtle. Hale Tower was Victor Hale's headquarters. which meant one of two things. Either this person had access to him, or they wanted me to think they did. I got there 10 minutes early. The lobby was exactly what you'd expect: glass, marble, quiet conversations, people who moved like their time mattered. I chose a table near the edge where I could see both the entrance and the elevators. At exactly 6:03, Megan walked in. She didn't look around much, just spotted me, hesitated for half a second, and then came over. "I didn't know if you'd come," she said, sitting down across from me. "I didn't know if you were the one texting me," I replied. She gave a small, tense smile. "That's fair." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Up close, she looked more tired than I remembered. Not just physically, something deeper. "You gave me the USB," I said. "Yes, and you told me to check it." Her eyes flicked up, surprised. "You did. It's edited," I said. She nodded immediately. No hesitation. I know, that answered one question. Why I asked. "Because if I handed you raw files," she said quietly, "you would have taken them straight to Daniel, or your mom, and they would have found a way to shut it down." I studied her. "That doesn't explain why it's edited," I said. "It does," she replied. "The version you have is something you can question. That forces you to slow down." I leaned back slightly. "You're trying to control how I react," I said. "I'm trying to keep you from making a mistake," she said. The difference mattered. But I didn't say that out loud. "What's your role in this?" I asked. She didn't look away this time. "I helped Daniel," she said. There it was. Not denial. Not deflection. Just the truth. "How?" I asked. "I fixed his materials," she said. "Adjusted presentations. Cleaned up his branding. I didn't know at first that he was using your work directly. At first I repeated." She nodded. "I figured it out when I saw the original files. Your files. And you kept helping him anyway." Her jaw tightened. "I tried to get him to stop," she said. "He said it wasn't a big deal. That you weren't ready for those clients anyway. That he was just stepping in." I almost laughed at that. "That sounds familiar," I said. "I know," she replied. Silence settled between us again, heavier this time. "Why tell me now?" I asked. "Because it's not just Daniel," she said. That pulled my focus back immediately. "Then who?" I asked. She glanced toward the elevators, then back at me. "Your mom," she said. I held her gaze. "I already know she was involved," I said. "No," Megan said, shaking her head slightly. "You don't understand. Then explain it." She leaned forward, lowering her voice. "She's the one who pushed it," Megan said. "Daniel wouldn't have gone this far on his own." That didn't sit right. "Daniel's the one accessing my account," I said. "Yes," Megan agreed. "But your mom is the one who told him which emails to respond to, which clients mattered." I felt something shift inside me again. Cold. Precise. Why I asked. Megan hesitated. "Because she thinks your business is unstable," she said, "and she thinks Daniel's is safer." "Safer," I repeated. "For the family," she said. "For appearances, for long-term security." "So she decided to reroute my clients to him?" I asked. Megan didn't answer. She didn't need to. I looked away for a second, letting that settle. It wasn't just interference. It was selection. Control. "You said it's not just them," I said, turning back to her. "What else am I missing?" Megan exhaled slowly. "Victor Hale," she said. My focus sharpened. "What about him?" "He knows more than he told you," she said. "I figured that," I replied. He said he suspected interference. It's more than suspicion, she said. He's been tracking it. Tracking what? Your work, she said. And Daniel's. I frowned. Why would he care? Because your proposal wasn't the only one, she said. I didn't move. What do you mean he's seen multiple versions of the same concept, Megan said? Different companies, different names, same core design. I felt my stomach tighten. Daniel's been pitching my ideas, I said. Yes, she said. But not just yours. That hit harder than I expected. Then whose, I asked. Megan's eyes held mine. That's what Victor wants to figure out, she said. Silence stretched between us. Everything I thought this was family interference, personal sabotage. It was still that, but it was also bigger. Messier. Why bring me here? I asked. Because you're the only one who can prove which version is real, she said. I shook my head slightly. I already have proof Daniel accessed my account. That's not enough, she said. Not for Victor, not for what he's dealing with. And what is he dealing with? I asked. Megan hesitated again. Then she said something that made everything else feel smaller. He's deciding who to trust with a multi-company rollout, she said. Packaging, branding, sustainability, the whole system. I went still. And right now, she added, you and Daniel are both on that list. I let out a slow breath. Of course we were. He didn't just want to know who copied who. He wanted to know who could actually build something real. So this meeting, I said, looking around the lobby, this isn't just about you warning me. Megan shook her head. No, she said. It's about what happens next. Right on cue, the elevator doors opened. A man stepped out. Victor Hale. He walked toward us like he already knew exactly where we'd be. My pulse didn't spike. It steadied. Because suddenly, this wasn't about proving my brother was wrong. It was about proving I was right. And Victor stopped at our table, his eyes moving from Megan to me. Miss Cruz, he said calmly. I'm glad you decided to come. I met his gaze. I didn't know this was your meeting, I said. A faint smile touched his expression. It always was, he replied. Victor didn't sit right away. He looked at Megan first, just a brief glance, but it carried weight. Not suspicion, not surprise. Something closer to confirmation. You did the right thing, he told her. Megan nodded once, then stood. I said what I needed to say. She didn't look at me again before walking away. I watched her leave, then turned back to Victor. You set this up, I said. Yes, he replied simply, taking the seat across from me. There was no apology in his tone, but there wasn't arrogance either, just clarity. You let me believe she reached out on her own, I said. I let you decide whether you were willing to listen, he corrected. I held his gaze for a moment, then leaned back. All right, I said. Then let's skip the part where we pretend this is casual. A small, almost approving shift in his expression. Good, he said. Because it isn't. He slid a folder onto the table between us. Not mine. Different color. Different label. I didn't touch it yet. What is this? I asked. Your competition, he said. I opened it. Inside were documents, proposals, mock-ups, brand frameworks. At first glance, they looked unrelated. Different company names, different formats. But the longer I looked, the more the patterns started to align. Structural similarities, material choices, sustainability metrics that mirrored mine almost exactly. My chest tightened. These are mine, I said quietly. Not all of them, Victor replied. but enough. I flipped through the pages again, slower this time. They've been adjusted, I said. Reworded, slightly restructured, just enough to pass a surface review, he said. I looked up. You've seen this before. He nodded. In different industries, different scales, internal leaks. Sometimes, he said. Other times it's proximity. I thought about that. Proximity, family, shared spaces, access. You didn't come to my mom's house just to confront me, I said. No, he replied. I came to see how you would react under pressure. I let out a quiet breath, and I asked. You didn't defend yourself emotionally, he said. You observed. That sounded less like a compliment and more like an assessment. You're evaluating me, I said. Yes. For what I asked, he tapped the folder lightly, for something that doesn't tolerate instability. I closed the folder. Say it clearly, I said. He didn't hesitate. I'm preparing a multi-company rollout, he said. Sustainable packaging systems across several sectors. Retail logistics manufacturing. I listened without interrupting. I've narrowed it down to 2 viable design leads, he continued. You and your brother. That didn't surprise me. Not anymore. What's the deciding factor, I asked. Ownership, he said. I frowned slightly. Of the work, of the process, he clarified. Of the thinking behind it. I understood that. Anyone can replicate a design, he said. Very few can build it from the ground up. I leaned forward slightly. So, you want to know who actually created this, I said. I already know, he replied. That made me pause. Then what are we doing here? I need to know who can sustain it, he said. There it was. Not just truth, consistency, execution, trust. And you think a meeting like this answers that, I asked. No, he said. But what happens next will. I sat back again, considering. You invited Daniel too, didn't you? I asked. Yes. When tomorrow morning? He said. I let out a slow breath. Of course. This is a test, I said. In part, he replied. And if I refuse, I asked. Then I move forward without you, he said. No pressure in his voice. Just fact. I looked down at the folder again. All those versions, all those pieces of my work reshaped just enough to blur the line. You already know he accessed my email, I said. I know there was interference, he replied. That's not the same thing, I said. No, he agreed. It's not. Silence settled between us. Then I asked the question that had been sitting under everything else. Why not just cut him out, I said, if you know he's not the source? Victor held my gaze. Because this isn't just about him, he said. Then what is it about pressure, he said? Influence, decision-making under conflict. I frowned. You're still testing me. I'm observing you, he corrected again. I let that sit. Then I nodded once. Fine, I said. Then let's make one thing clear. He didn't speak. I'm not here to compete with my brother, I said. I'm here to correct a record. His expression didn't change, but I could tell he was listening more closely now. I'm not going to play into whatever narrative he's built, I continued. I'm going to show you exactly how my work was created, how it functions, and why it holds up without shortcuts. Victor gave a small nod. That's what I'm looking for, he said. I stood. So tomorrow? I said you'll have it. He stood as well. I expect you will, he replied. I picked up the folder and turned to leave, but just before I reached the edge of the lobby, his voice stopped me. Ms. Cruz. I turned back. If what you suspect is correct, he said this won't end cleanly. I held his gaze. It already didn't, I said. Then I walked out. The evening air felt heavier than before, not because I was uncertain, but because everything had shifted. This wasn't just about proving Daniel wrong anymore. It wasn't even just about my family. It was about ownership, control, and what I was willing to risk to take both back. Because tomorrow, I wouldn't just be facing my brother. I'd be facing everything he built on top of me. I didn't go home that night. I went back to the office. Kayla didn't ask questions when I walked in after hours. She just looked at my face, closed her laptop, and said, "What do you need?" Everything, I replied. We worked in silence for the first hour. Not chaotic silence, focused. I rebuilt my process from the ground up: original sketches, early drafts, material, sourcing notes, supplier emails, failed prototypes, cost breakdowns. Things I had never needed to organize this cleanly before because I was the only one using them. Now they mattered. Now they were proof. Kayla set up a second screen, pulling logs, timelines, version histories. "Your file structure actually helps," she said. "You've been consistent." "I didn't think anyone else would need to read it," I replied. "Now they will." Around midnight, she paused. "Isla," she said, "there's something else." I walked over. She pointed at a timeline she'd built from the login logs and email activity. "Look at this," she said. I leaned closer. There was a pattern. Not just access times, but timing relative to incoming emails. Daniel wasn't checking randomly. He was responding within minutes of certain messages arriving. "Filtered," I said. Kayla nodded. "Yeah." He knew which ones to open. I felt that same cold clarity settle in again. He wasn't just reading everything I continued. He was watching for specific opportunities, which means someone told him what to look for. Kayla said. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. We both knew who that pointed to. Rosa. My mom didn't understand systems or branding or technical design, but she understood people. Status. Value. She knew which names mattered, which companies sounded important. She didn't need to access my account. She just needed to tell Daniel which emails to care about. I stepped back from the screen. This was coordinated, I said. Kayla nodded slowly. Yeah. Not impulsive, not protective, strategic. I let that sit for a moment, then picked up my phone. There were 3 missed calls, all from my mom. I didn't listen to the voicemail. I didn't need to hear what version of this she was trying to tell now. Are you going to call her back? Kayla asked. No, I said. Ever. I looked at the phone for a second longer. Not tonight. Kayla nodded. That was enough. We went back to work. By 2:30 a.m., everything was in place. A clean timeline, original files, version comparisons, email logs, access records, and one thing that tied it all together, a sequence that showed exactly when my work existed and when Daniel's version appeared, not identical, not copied in one move, but close enough to prove direction. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. This wasn't just about what he took. It was about how he used it. He didn't replace me directly. He reshaped what I made, positioned himself as the refined version, the safer choice, the one the family could stand behind. Kayla closed her laptop. "You're ready?" she said. I nodded once, not because I felt ready, but because there was nothing else to add. "Get some rest," she said. "You need a clear head tomorrow." I will, I said. But I didn't. I sat there a while longer after she left, just thinking about how quiet it had all been. No confrontation, no obvious betrayal, just small decisions repeated over time that slowly moved me out of my own life. I picked up my phone again. One new message. From my mom. I never wanted this to go this far. I stared at it for a few seconds, then locked the screen, because that sentence didn't change anything. She didn't want it to go this far, but she let it start, and she let it continue. That was enough. The next morning I got to Hale Tower earlier than yesterday. The lobby was quieter this time, less movement, more space. I took the same seat as before, placed my laptop on the table, and waited. At 9:02, Daniel walked in. He saw me immediately, stopped, then forced a smile. "Well," he said, walking over, "didn't expect to see you here." "I did," I replied. He sat across from me, glancing at my laptop. "What's this?" he asked. "Preparation," I said. "For what?" I held his gaze. "You'll see." He leaned back, trying to look relaxed, but his eyes kept flicking to the screen, to the files, to the structure. He recognized it. Not fully, but enough. "What's going on, Isla?" he asked, his voice tightening slightly. "Nothing new," I said. "Just making sure everything's clear." "Clear for who?" "For him." Right on cue, the elevator doors opened. Victor Hale stepped out. Daniel straightened immediately. Professional posture. Confident expression. I didn't move. Victor approached, his gaze moving between us. "Good," he said. "You're both here." He gestured toward the conference room behind him. "Let's begin." Daniel stood first. I followed. And as we walked into that room, I realized something. This wasn't just about exposing what he did. It was about deciding what happened after. Because once the truth was out, there was no version of this where things went back to normal. And I wasn't interested in normal anymore. The conference room was colder than the lobby, not in temperature, just in tone. Glass walls, long table, minimal decoration, the kind of space where decisions didn't need to be explained twice. Victor took the seat at the head. Daniel moved first, placing his folder down with practiced confidence. I sat across from him, my laptop already open, everything organized exactly the way I needed it. No notes in my hand, no script, just the work. "Let's keep this focused," Victor said. "You both understand why you're here." Daniel nodded immediately. "Of course." I didn't respond. Victor gestured toward him. "You can start." Daniel stood smooth, composed. He launched into his presentation like he'd done it 100 times, clean slides, polished language, clear structure. If I didn't know what I knew, it would have been convincing. "This framework prioritizes scalable sustainability," he said, clicking through slides. "We've developed a modular packaging system that reduces material waste while maintaining structural integrity across distribution channels." I watched. Not the slides. Him. The pauses. The phrasing. The places where his explanation thinned just slightly, where he relied on memorized language instead of understanding. He got through the full presentation without interruption. Victor didn't comment. He just looked at me. "Ms. Cruz." I stood. No slides at first, just the screen. "I'm not going to present a finished product," I said. "I'm going to show you how it was built." I clicked once. My first file appeared: early sketches. Rough. Incomplete. "This is where it started," I said. "Before materials were finalized, before cost modeling, before scalability. I moved forward. Version history, iteration layers, failed structures, supplier notes. I tested 5 material combinations before landing on the one you saw yesterday, I continued. 3 failed underweight distribution. 1 passed structurally but exceeded cost limits by 18%. I didn't rush. I didn't perform. I explained. Every decision here has a reason, I said. Not just an outcome. I clicked again. Timeline comparison. My files. Daniel's. Side by side. I let the silence sit for a second before speaking again. Now this I said, pointing to his column, appears 2 weeks after this version was completed. Daniel shifted in his seat. I didn't look at him. Similar structure, I continued. Adjusted metrics, language refined, but no early stage data, no testing logs. I turned slightly, finally meeting his eyes. Because those don't exist, I said. He let out a small laugh. That doesn't prove anything. No, I agreed. Not by itself. I clicked again. Email logs, access records, timestamp alignment. These do, I said. Victor leaned forward slightly. Daniel's posture tightened. Your device accessed my account repeatedly over a 4-week period, I continued. Each time within minutes of high-value client inquiries. That's speculation, he started. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't interrupt. I just kept going. 4 contracts were declined during that window, I said. All through responses I did not send. I pulled up the messages, displayed side by side with my writing samples. The tone is close, I said, but not consistent. Victor's eyes moved between the screens. Daniel looked at him, then back at me. You're twisting this, he said. You don't have proof I sent those. I paused. Then I said calmly, You're right. That caught him off guard. I don't need to prove you sent them, I continued. I need to prove that the work you're presenting isn't yours. Silence. I clicked one more time. A deeper file layer. Hidden version data. Metadata. Every file you used traces back to an earlier version created on my system, I said. Down to structural markers you didn't remove because you didn't know they were there. Victor's gaze sharpened. Daniel didn't speak. For example, I added zooming in this alignment grid. It's not visible in the final output, but it affects spacing ratios. You copied the output but not the system behind it. I stepped back. That's the difference, I said, between replication and authorship. No one spoke for a moment. Then Victor did. Mr. Cruz, he said. Daniel straightened, forcing control back into his voice. This is a misinterpretation, he said. We worked from similar industry standards. Victor raised a hand. Daniel stopped. Victor looked at me. Thank you, he said. Then he turned to Daniel. This is over. Just like that. No escalation. No argument. Final. Daniel blinked. Excuse me? You're not being considered further, Victor said. Effective immediately. The room went quiet again, but this time it felt different. Daniel stood up. This is because of her, he asked, gesturing toward me. No, Victor said. It's because of you. Daniel looked at me one more time, not angry, not even surprised, just exposed. Then he walked out. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Victor turned back to me. You handled that well, he said. I handled what was mine, I replied. He nodded. That's what I needed to see. He closed the folder in front of him. "I'll have my team follow up," he said. "But for now, you have the position." I didn't react right away. Not because I didn't understand what he meant, but because it didn't feel like a win. Not in the way I used to imagine. "Thank you," I said finally. He gave a brief nod and stood. "Take the day," he added. "You've earned it." Then he left. I stayed in the room a few seconds longer, just breathing, letting everything settle. Not the outcome, the shift. Because this wasn't about getting something. It was about taking something back. I packed up slowly and left the building. Outside, the air felt lighter. Clear. My phone buzzed once as I reached the sidewalk. A message from my mom. "I'm sorry." I read it, then locked my phone. Not out of anger, just clarity. Some things don't get fixed with one word. Some things don't go back. And for the first time, I wasn't trying to make them. 6 months later, my office looked different. Bigger space, more people, systems that worked the way I always knew they could. Kayla had moved into a leadership role. Victor's project had expanded faster than expected, and I worked, quietly, consistently, on things that were mine. I didn't hear much about Daniel after the initial fallout. There was a civil case, business interference, misrepresentation. His company didn't survive it. My mom tried to reach out a few times, calls, messages, a letter once. I read it. I didn't respond. Not because I hated her, but because I finally understood something I didn't before. Forgiveness and access are not the same thing. I could let go of the anger without reopening the door, and that was enough. Sometimes the hardest part isn't proving someone wrong. It's accepting that they chose to be. When people talk about betrayal, they focus on the moment it's revealed. But what stays with you isn't the shock, it's the pattern you start to see in hindsight. The small decisions, the quiet permissions, the ways people convince themselves they're helping when they're actually taking. If you've ever been in a position where your own family made you feel smaller so they could feel safer, you're not alone. And you're not wrong for stepping back. Setting boundaries isn't revenge. It's clarity. Forgiveness doesn't mean restoring access. It means releasing the weight of expecting them to change. And sometimes the most honest form of healing is building something that no one else gets to control. If any part of this story felt familiar, I'd really like to hear your perspective, where you're watching from, and what time it is where you are. And if you want more stories like this, you can stay connected. This is a fictional story created for entertainment, education, and reflection.